Hello students, welcome back to World of Home Science. Embroidery in India includes dozens of embroidery styles that vary by region and clothing styles. Designs in Indian embroidery are formed on the basis of the texture and designs of the fabric and the stitch. The dot and the alternate dot, the circle, the square, the triangle, and permutations and combinations of these constitute the Indian embroidery design. Myself, Vijay Patil, Assistant Professor of Home Science, Government First Grade College, Ankola, Pujgiri. In this video, we discuss about some of the traditional embroideries of India. Embroidery is an expression of self. Rendered with patience and dedicated handwork, it is an art highly described as painting by needle. Embroidery, an age-old traditional technique that uses strings of threads and a needle. These needlework techniques, often creating an intricate pattern onto the fabric, embroidery adds grace and elegance, life and style even into articles of everyday use. Indian embroidery takes its inspiration from nature and religion. The color, the theme, and the style are specific to a particular region. Let's see one by one. Kashmiri embroidery is as colorful and beautiful as Kashmir itself. Embroidered fabrics of Kashmir are world famous. The Kashmir embroidery is known as Kashida. The craftsmen in Kashmir are generally men. Kashida artists get inspiration from the beauty of the natural surroundings of Kashmir, so the motifs used are mostly from the nature. Animal and human motifs are usually not seen. The bird motifs are parrots, canary, magpie, woodpecker, and kingfisher. Floral motifs used are iris, lotus, lily, tulip, and saffron flowers. Other designs are grapes, plums, apples, almonds, and cherries. The chinar leaf is also a motif. Fabrics used are white, green, purple, blue, yellow, black, crimson, and scarlet. Stitches used are satin, long and short stitches. Occasionally, herringbone and darning stitch is also used for Kashida embroidery. Fulkari of Punjab. The word Fulkari means full means flower and kari means work. These were the conventional ceremonial shawls worn by the Hindu bride at her wedding. The women of Jat community are specialized in Fulkari work. The Fulkari motifs generally are of floral patterns, but geometric patterns are also used. The choice of the design is wide, but very often they appear to be almost identical because of the close and compact stitches used. The material on which the embroidery is worked is rough khaddar. Threads used for embroidery is silk. Colors used are white, red, yellow, and green. The color of the khaddar is invariably red, maroon, or brown. Most of the embroidery is done in satin and chain stitch, but occasionally herringbone stitch is also used for finishing the edge of the border. Chamba Rumals. The Rumals of Chamba, a state in the Himalayan range, are remarkable pieces. Chamba Rumals. The Rumals of Chamba, a state in the Himalayan range, are remarkable pieces of embroidery. The rumal is a square piece of cotton material of the size of a teapoy cover. The motifs for design are figures, flowers, leaves, forming a sort of frame to set off the central representation of a scene from a mythological story or a legend. The unique characterization of the embroidery is that it gives a vivid impression of the embroidered figure being in action or in motion, thereby enhancing the artistic value of the rumals. The material generally selected is very fine and of delicate texture. The embroidery is worked in double satin stitch, which produces the design on both sides of the material. So, a chamba rumal does not have a right or a wrong side of the fabric. embroidery of the Gujarat is known as Kuch. Kuch embroidery was practiced from the 16th century in Gujarat. It is believed that this art was taught to the mochis, that is shoemakers, who came from Sindh. The embroideries of Sindh, Kuch and Kathiawara are very similar and almost identical. The embroidery is very pictorial and original. The mirror work and interlacing stitch set it apart from any other kind of the embroidery. Motifs used in this type of embroidery are floral, peacocks, animals, birds, trees. Persian influence can be seen in these motifs. Fabrics used are cotton and silk. Colors are white, indigo, blue, crimson, red, green and yellow. The stitches used in this embroidery are chain stitch, herringbone, interlacing, darning and buttonhole stitch. Chikankari is very famous embroidery of Uttar Pradesh. It is an industry nurtured and developed in the region watered by Ganga and Yamuna. Lucknow in particular is the cradle of chikankari embroidery. Chikan work lacks in the attractiveness associated with color, yet has a fascination of its own, unequaled by few and surpassed by none. Daintiness and delicacy added to the finish and a richness of its own are the outstanding characteristics of chikankari. Motifs used represents familiar objects connected with a daily life. Often grains like rice and millet, flowers, leaves, etc. are used. Fabrics used are muslins and cotton. Colors used are usually white or pastel shades. Stitches used are back stitch, herringbone and running stitch. Kasuti of Karnataka. In Kannada, the word for embroidery is Kasuti. In Karnataka, the Kasuti embroidery work has traditionally been and still is done entirely by women. The women of Karnataka turned for design to their own surroundings and clothes, the ones that appealed to their religious, artistic or domestic instincts. The religious motifs are the gopurams of temple, the chariot, the lotus and the tulsi katte, etc. Elephants with howdahs, peacock, birds, animals and flowers are standard motifs. The material on which the embroidery is executed is a hand-woven cloth of dark color, usually black cotton or silk, red, purple, green, orange and crimson. The stitches used are backstitch and running stitch. In certain work, the overall effect is of a woven design rather than embroidery. Kasuti stitches are horizontal, vertical or diagonal. The Kasuti workers use no tracing to set the pattern. Manipur. As we all know, Manipur is a land of rich valleys surrounded by beautiful hills and lakes. Manipur is surrounded by mountains, its beautiful valleys covered with sheets of water. The women of Manipur carry the burden of the society. The embroidery prepared by women is delicate and extremely fine. The craft is practiced by both men and women in Manipur. The motifs used are butterfly, elephants, etc. But more commonly used in Akyobi, which is another name for Manipur embroidery. In Akyobi design, which is worked in two shades of red with a bit of black and white. It is a circular design, one circle joining the other, with each circle being further broken up into a pattern. That's for now. This is me Vijaya signing off. If you find the content of this video useful, do like, share and subscribe. Comment for your suggestions. For future home science videos, stay tuned. Bye bye.